When I was in the Missouri Theater one Monday morning reporting on Andy Crouch's discussion on culture, I started to cry. Then I cried quite a lot. Pretty sure I was the only one out of the hundreds of people gathered there who was crying. Crouch's talk made sense, but it wasn't exactly heart-wrenching. And why I was crying had nothing to do with what he was saying. Maybe it had a little bit to do with it. He was talking about culture and how it makes things possible and also impossible. Fortunately, I don't think anyone saw me crying. It was pretty dark in there. I sat down front. Everyone else is sitting behind me. It's 11 degrees outside, about 45 degrees inside the Missouri Theater. If anyone noticed me going for tissues in my briefcase, they probably just thought I had a cold. I was crying because I just realized why my son Henry wants to be able to run 8 miles. The other day, my wife and I were asking our children if they had any goals or resolutions or bucket list types of items that they wanted to do or accomplish. Well, they both wanted to go to New York City, and Oliver wants to go camping out in the wilderness, and Henry said he'd like to be able to run 8 miles. I told him, if he works at it, that's definitely attainable. I thought to myself, that's a pretty odd distance to choose. Henry recently ran a 5K. That was his first race, and I could see him aspiring to run a faster 5K. Or, maybe increasing the distance. Maybe he'd want to try to build to racing in a 10K, or maybe even a half marathon, maybe a marathon, who knows. But in the world of amateur sports races, there's no such thing as an 8-mile race. It just doesn't exist. So 3 days later, I'm sitting in the Missouri Theater taking notes, and it just completely hits me out of the blue. I'm in a running group that runs twice a week, and the distance I run varies from about 7 to 8 miles. Henry knows this because he's heard me talk about my morning runs. I realize that this is where Henry got this odd 8-mile goal. It comes down to one of two things. Either A, he wants to be able to run with me and someday be part of this group that I'm so fond of. Or B, he thinks 8 miles is all that he'll ever be able to do. Because I never run further than that, so he implies that own limitation to himself. Either one of those possible answers just shook my foundation to the core, and it caused me to become very emotional with love, with guilt, with responsibility. What I allow my kids to do or not do, and how I discipline them, helping them study, signing them up for sports, paying attention to what they eat, their manners, how they are with sharing, everything I try to teach them in my role as a parent. It matters, but who I am, what I do, when I'm working, when I'm not working, when I'm parenting, when I'm not parenting, when I'm just on my own at 5:30 in the morning, running down a dark trail with friends in Columbia, joking around. That matters too. It gives my son goals, and it sets limits on what he thinks he can do. Maybe that's what matters most. Consider 1 John 3:18. Little children, let us love, not in word or speech, but in truth and action. God help me. Amen.